It's 2:35 in the morning. April 4th, 2023. San Francisco. A man is stumbling down Main Street, clutching his chest. He flags down a passing car, lifts his shirt to show the driver his wound, and the car just drives away. He collapses on the pavement. In his dying moments, he manages to call 911. His voice, barely a whisper, repeats 2 words over and over. "Help me. Please." By the time paramedics arrive, he's unconscious. He never wakes up. The man bleeding out on that San Francisco street wasn't just anybody. He was Bob Lee, the tech genius, who built one of the most widely used financial apps in American history. And what happened to him in those final hours would shock an entire industry. To understand this case, you need to understand who Bob Lee was, because the contrast between the man and his fate is part of what makes this story so haunting. Bob Lee was born on December 20th, 1979, in St. Louis, Missouri. From early on, it was clear he was wired differently. In high school, he wrote a 3D rendering engine in Turbo Pascal just for fun. His classmates called him Crazy Bob, partly because of his wild energy on the water polo team, and partly because his brain just operated at a different speed. He went on to study at Southeast Missouri State University, and after college, landed at Google, where he contributed to the early development of Android, yes, the operating system that now runs billions of phones worldwide. That alone would have been a remarkable career. But Lee wasn't done. In the early 2010s, he joined Square, the payment company founded by Jack Dorsey, as its chief technology officer. There, he helped build something that would fundamentally change how everyday Americans send and receive money: CashApp. CashApp today has tens of millions of users. It's how friends split dinner, how gig workers get paid, how families send money across the country. Bob Lee helped create all of that. By 2021, he had moved on to MobileCoin, a cryptocurrency company, where he served as chief product officer. He had relocated to Miami, but remained closely connected to the Bay Area and to his 2 children, who lived there with his ex-wife Krista, from whom he had separated in 2019. People who knew Lee describe him as generous to a fault, the kind of guy who would give you his last dollar and then teach you how to earn your own. He was mentor to young engineers, a life of the party type, a man who seemed to be living proof that tech could be both brilliant and human. So when news broke that Bob Lee had been found stabbed to death on a San Francisco street, the tech world was devastated. Now let's go back to April 3rd, 2023. The night everything unraveled. Bob Lee was in San Francisco visiting his children. His daughter Scout had just performed in a school play, and he'd been there to cheer her on. That night, after spending time with his kids, he connected with friends for a night out. He ended up at the Battery, an exclusive private members club in the city. He was socializing, having a good time. Among the people he spent time with that night were a woman named Kazar Momini, an acquaintance, and her circle of friends. Kazar's brother, Nima Momini, was a 38-year-old IT consultant from Emeryville, across the bay. He and Bob Lee were not close. In fact, they had only met a few days prior. But Nima and Bob Lee ended up in each other's orbit that night through Kazar. As the night wore on and the hours grew small, things became complicated. Kazar later told her brother that something inappropriate had happened to her at a friend's apartment, an allegation of assault. Whether that allegation was fully accurate would become one of the most contested questions in the entire trial. What's not in dispute is what happened next. Nima Momini called Bob Lee. The call was overheard by a friend of Lee's, who later described it to police. Nima was interrogating Bob, demanding to know what had been going on. Then, in the early hours of April 4th, the 2 men met up at Kazar's condo in the Millennium Tower, one of San Francisco's most prestigious addresses. According to Nima's own testimony at trial, the mood settled somewhat. They did cocaine together. They made plans to go to a strip club. Around 2 a.m., Bob Lee and Nima Momini left the Millennium Tower. They got into Nima's white BMW. Surveillance. On a dark, isolated stretch of Main Street near the Bay Bridge, Nima stabbed Bob Lee 3 times, twice in the chest, 1 wound piercing his heart, once in the hip using a small kitchen. Knife prosecutors believe he took from his sister's kitchen beforehand. Did he get justice? Yes, partially. On December 17, 2024, after a 7 weeks trial, Nima Momini was found not guilty of first-degree murder. The jury didn't find premeditation. Guilty of second-degree murder. He faces 15 years to life in prison. Though, as of early 2025, he had hired new lawyers and signaled plans to appeal the conviction. Bob Lee's family also filed a civil lawsuit against the Momini family, alleging a cover-up pointing to deleted phone searches made by Kazar's husband in the days right after the murder. So justice came, though Bob Lee's family and brother felt it should have been first-degree murder. His daughter Scout, just 16, whose school play her father attended days before his death, has had to carry that loss ever since.